Through this week, we have been reporting on China's unconventional warfare, how Chinese hackers are targeting Indian assets. The first revelations came out on Monday when we learned how at the height of the border standoff last year, Chinese hackers attempted to intrude into India's power grid. How a power outage in Mumbai last year could have been the result of a possible Chinese cyber campaign. Then we heard about the targeting of Indian vaccine makers, and today another potential breach has come to light. This time it's an Indian port. Here is what we know thanks to Recorded Future. This is a cyber intelligence firm. It is called Recorded Future, that is the name. This firm is the one that found the possible Chinese breach in India's power grid. Now they say the Chinese hackers have made a connection with the network system of an Indian port. They found a link to access an Indian port. And as of Tuesday this week, this connection was still active. The group of hackers behind this targeted as many as 12 Indian entities. 10 of them come under India's power grid, and the other 2 are maritime ports. And as of Tuesday, like I said, the network infrastructure at one of these ports was still vulnerable. It apparently had an active connection with the Chinese hacker. In simpler words, until 2 days back, Chinese hackers could have taken control of at least one Indian maritime port. And we don't know if these assets have now been secured. This, needless to say, is a security nightmare. Recorded Future did a virtual presentation today to share their findings, and they believe these are Chinese state-sponsored attacks. Why do they say this? They've given 2 reasons for linking this to the Chinese government. One, the target of these attacks. It was India's critical infrastructure. Who would want to cripple it? And reason number 2, they've spotted a pattern, and this is very interesting. Listen to this. These Chinese hackers use the same infrastructure that the Chinese government does. Add 2 plus 2, and you can see that these cyber attacks were backed by Beijing.
And additionally, as Christopher described, the activity took place during a time period of heightened diplomatic tensions and violence along the India-China border. So given this geopolitical context, it's likely that Beijing had an interest in targeting Indian networks during this time period.
So there was a cyber attack, most likely backed by the Chinese government. What happened then? The most obvious question right now is this. Were they successful? Were they able to breach Indian systems? India says none of its critical infrastructure was compromised, which is good news, but this is no reason to sit back. Just because the Chinese could not breach the systems this time does not mean that the threat is over. According to Recorded Future, more such attacks cannot be ruled out. They shared an outlook today. It said that such attacks by Chinese hackers could continue this year. Cyber ops is now very much a part of China's arsenal, and Beijing wants to use technology to further its strategic goals. So what are India's options? Well, silence certainly is not one of them. Experts behind this assessment say that such attacks are now happening on a daily basis, and the silence of governments will only embolden countries like China.
So my encouragement to governments around the world is be transparent, show the logs, show the malware, just publish it. It might feel uncomfortable first, but that's going to be misery for the threat actors because they rely on people becoming sort of, clam down and hiding what they're observing. The worst thing a Chinese threat actor is going to see here is seeing the logs of their activities being public, the malware being decomposed or reversed or whatever we want to call it, and being out for general observation in the world.
Transparency will win here. And what happened today confirms that. Microsoft has said that it caught China hacking. And yet again, it's a quote-unquote state-sponsored group operating out of China. This is from Microsoft. What were they doing? These Chinese hackers apparently tried to breach Microsoft's mail and calendar server program. The United States has now issued an emergency warning, and this is quite rare. The warning comes from the US Cyber Security and Infrastructure Security Agency. They want the entire US government to now take steps to protect its cyber security. A software upgrade is being pushed to fight any vulnerabilities. Government officers must download and install it by Friday. That's like telling the entire US government to firm up its defenses in one day. Does that sound desperate to you? Because it is. And what do these warnings tell you? China is on the offensive. The target is critical IT infrastructure of other governments. From America to India, everyone is vulnerable. First, the Wuhan virus, and now the cyber attacks. Countries like China have made borders redundant. A, because they do not respect them anyway, and B, because they strike in spaces with no borders. The next pandemic could be in the cyber world. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.